everyone. My name is Lauren Robinson. I'm going to be presenting today about the NIH data management and sharing policy. It's a refresher from all those sessions that we did last year and last semester. My colleague Rebecca Morgan has helped me with this presentation in the past. She's our liaison to the College of Pharmacy, but she was unable to be here today. And I am the liaison to the College of Medicine. So I'm going to go on and get started. So just as a quick note, we have other upcoming workshops coming up. We have choosing a review methodology, which review type is right for you. And we also have why a protocol, so why it is helpful to use a protocol when writing a systematic review or other evidence synthesis. So those are upcoming, and we'll be launching our spring workshops here in the next couple months. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the NIH DMSP, give a refresher about that, and as well as the Office of Science Technology Policy and what they released, I guess, probably almost a year ago now. And then we're going to talk about sharing and how this is different from the previous data management plan, where sharing is being much more emphasized, and some tools and resources available to you from different librarians, both here at UK and across the country. So tip number one. Use the new NIH DMSP. So it is available, and I'll talk about this too later, in our DMP tool. Make sure you're using the new form of it. It's available here at this link on the screen. And so there's kind of two things happening right now. The Office of Science, Technology, and Policy, it's not really recent anymore, but they released a memo ensuring free, immediate, and equitable access to federally funded research. So what does that mean? It means that no embargoes are going to be allowed on your data starting in December of 2025. That also means journals will not be able to put embargoes on your articles for 12 months. A lot of them have done that with federally funded research. That's not going to happen anymore. So and that's going to be happening in the next few years, but the DMSP also plays into that. Right? They're wanting you to be more transparent about how you're going to share your data, as well as how you're going to manage it and make it accessible long-term. So we're not just talking about access for tomorrow, we're talking about access for later on, for several years down the road. So tip number two, not all sharing is equal. So I want to talk a little bit about this because we get questions often with people sending us data management plans, and they say that they're going to be putting their data in an article or in a presentation, and that's sharing. That's not what NIH and other funding organizations mean by data sharing. They actually mean the raw data. So any of the data that you have from the collection of your research as well as any of the metadata that makes it usable, right? So you can't just have a data set that's available that you don't know what instrument was used. You have to make sure all of that metadata that makes it usable is accessible, as well as the data itself. What people typically think of as sharing are the expressions of data, and that's not what NIH and other funding organizations mean. The charts, the graphs, the things put in papers, those are all expressions of your data. So that's not what they mean by sharing. So the ultimate goal of sharing your data is standardization of your data description, so your metadata. So something like a code book or a data catalog or something that you're maintaining is really important to think about when writing your DMSP. Also consider preservation is not access. So just because I've had people say, well, I'm going to put it on a website or I'm going to put it somewhere online, that's not going to meet the standards for what NIH is wanting. They're wanting you to consider preservation, so like a long-term repository. And I'll talk about some tools called the Repository Finder, as well as some other tools available here at UK for putting your data into that aims at preservation. And then also, again, raw data, I've talked about this already, raw data, not the expressions of your data. So the ultimate goal should be that your data is going to be put into a repository so it's easily reproducible and understood. The goal of the new DMSP is to share it so your research can be validated, so it increases the validity of your own research. It also can be reused, right? most data is lost after a few years. It's not accessible anymore. So to make it more accessible means that we don't have to keep funding data that's already been collected. That's another reason. And grants are starting to be declined for not looking at or having a very clear DMSP. Again, you can only be so clear. It's a 2-page document, but it's just meant to get you to start thinking about how you're going to share and manage your data. So secondary data, this is something we like to touch on. So secondary data, so you can't always make your secondary data accessible, right? Especially if you're using government research or data from the state. Sometimes you sign a data use agreement to access that data. So they're not saying you have to make that publicly available, because they might have personal health information or other type of information that is not openly available. They want you to at least say where your data is being used, how it's being used, how are you accessing it, are you in a data use agreement for it? So all those things can be made clear, so then other people can go get that data set as well and get their own data use agreement if needed. So the goal of all of this is just to think about reproducibility. Think about what you can do in your DMSP to make your data more reproducible and accessible. And again, like I said, PHI and other data access and data use agreements would supersede the new DMSP. Just make sure you're also putting that into your data management and sharing plan, saying that it has personal health information. It is accessed this way. Okay, tip number 3, tools and services are available to you. So I like to talk about this resource. I'm a part of a group called our Data Special Interest Group with the Medical Library Association. Them in conjunction with RDAP, and I do not remember exactly what RDAP stands for, but it's a bunch of research data experts. And they came together and they came up with a resource. And this resource, everyone mute, please. Thank you so much. So RDAP and the Data SIG guidance documents. So these are resources that launched last year, and the repository finder launched just more recently. And what does this involve? There is a glossary. That glossary kind of it's a bunch of definitions of words you may come across in the DMSP. So if you've never written a data management sharing policy, that's a great tool to go to, because it's going to break down what acronyms mean or what this means and what NIH means by this and things like that. So it's a really useful resource, especially if you're working with graduate students who have maybe never done that process before. A checklist. So there's, it's essentially a checklist for your 2-page document of make sure you're covering all this information. It has little check boxes you can check next to it. And it just kind of breaks down all the areas that they want you to at least touch base on and cover in your DMSP. And then there's a policy readiness checklist. So that's really for institutions and libraries. So if we want to evaluate what we need to do and what we need to be ready for, that's a checklist for us. And then there's a bunch of sample plans, and that's what's really useful. So all of these experts came together, and so these are experts across medical libraries and other data groups, and they found plans and that are openly available, and they provided some detailed information on them, like this is good, like make sure you're doing this. So there's sample plans, but there's also like ones where they've actually dictated them and given some examples and some helpful feedback. So those are available for your sample plans. And then there's also the repository finder, which I'll talk about more here in just a moment. It's actually available from the National Network of Libraries of Medicine. Okay, so tools from us here at the Medical Center. So we have a guide. I've actually linked to all of these different things I just talked about. So there was that OSF link just a moment ago on the screen, and it's in the chat as well. That takes you directly to the wiki about those different tools I spoke about. But I've also linked them here on the Medical Center Libraries Guide for Research and Publishing in Health Sciences. So this is under the section Organize Your Research. So this is a great tool. We talk about like H-index and citation metrics as well in other parts of this guide. So anything about research and publishing in the health sciences, this is a great place to start. But we also have a bunch of all of those publicly accessible DMPs, the ones that are edited, as well as tools like DMP tool, all linked on this guide. So additional resources that are available from UK libraries on the whole is our research data services. So this guide here is more specific about all the different research data services that are available here at UK. Those kind of fall under the plan, manage, share, and find of how we can help you. Isaac Wink was hired this year and is available to help with your research data management needs as well. But some of the medical librarians can help with some of the NIH stuff as well. We work closely with Isaac. And some of you all may have attended his session inside of the workshop series last week. Okay, so what is DMP tool? So that's a tool available to you here at the University of Kentucky. We are a licensed member with it. It's a software that provides fillable forms and feedback on how to complete different parts of your data management project. So these forms provide the ability to collaborate, so you can add people to your project if there's multiple investigators. And there's a bunch of templates. The DMSP for NIH is available there, but there's a bunch of other ones. There's ones for NSF, there's ones for NEH, there's a bunch of them, and a lot of smaller organizations as well. So that's a really great place to start. If you have no idea how to write a data management plan, this tool is available to you. So also inside of inside of DMP tool, this is kind of what it looks like. I want to talk a little bit about sharing. You can actually share your plan directly from DMP tool, and it can get a unique identifier, so like a DOI. But you can't do that unless you have at least 50% of your questions done. I don't recommend doing that because it does save the instances of it. So the whole point of a DMSP is to be transparent, to increase reproducibility. So they'll put those different versions of it, they'll make those available. So my recommendation, even though you only have to have 50% of it done, I would recommend to get all of it done and then publish it and get a unique identifier. And this is really great because the whole point is to link all your research outcomes together, right? So you can tie this to your ORCID. You can actually put this unique identifier in your grant, so it's available to view and it has unique identifier. You could then link these to your final research output, so they can go back and look at your data management and sharing plan. So maybe they want to replicate something that you've done or build upon it. They can go see how you manage your data. So that's another really great thing about DMP tool and kind of all these DOI tools for linking all of them together. They're going to be persistent and always available. So this is also how you, oops, let me go back. Sorry about that. So this is how you create one. I just wanted to pop this in here. This is what it looks like. It actually says National Institute of Health. Previously, there was two of them. There was like the old plan and the new plan. I think only the new plan is available now as a template. So you just name your research project, select what the primary research institution is, and then you can search there for all the various types of NIH plans. If you just want to do a mock-up, you can actually select this little check mark here for a mock-up. So then you can apply DOIs, and it's just kind of a test one. Okay, next thing are repositories. So there are several different ways to preserve your data. And those are several different ways in different repositories. So the first one I want to talk about is the Generalist Repository Ecosystem Initiative. This started, I think, a couple years or a year and a half ago. This is something NIH is working on, as well as NLM. And it's the Generalist Repository Ecosystem Initiative, GREI. They are trying to come up with standardization of the metadata for different data sets. So there are a lot of like specific repositories for your research, and the goal is to always put your data in a repository that meets your discipline's needs, right? So if there's a specific biology repository that everyone in your field is putting their data in, that's where your data should go, because that makes it more accessible. For the ones that don't fit into those really niche repositories, this is a great option, because OSF and Figshare, you've probably heard a lot of these before. And so what they're doing is they're trying to create generalized metadata, so all of the resources here, when you put your data, are all the same. So it's making for better accessibility for people because there's going to be a standardized way to search it. Again, this is fairly new. And so that I just wanted to touch base on this. So if your data does not go into a subject specific place, then this is a great place to look as well. So this is the repository finder. This is probably new to anyone who attended our sessions last semester. This recently launched. It took a little bit more time to get done and developed. So this is supposed to help people who are doing NIH supported research for those repositories that meet NIH standards. So what you can do is you can actually go on the left side here and select different things, like if you have PHI or if you have some other type of data that you need to make sure it's put into a repository that has some security to it. You can select those on the left side, and then on the right side, it will automatically show you which repositories meet that standard. So this is a really great place if you don't know where to start and you're trying to put it into a repository that you know already meets some NIH standards. Search Archive, I just want to touch on this one too. So if you're doing evidence syntheses, so some people are, one of their outcomes is an evidence synthesis or a systematic review as it's one of their outcomes on their grant. And if that's the case, you will need to put your data for that into a repository as well. And Search Archive is a fairly new repository. All they do is search strategies. So there's standardized metadata for them. They get unique and persistent identifiers. So it meets all the standards for reproducibility of systematic reviews and or evidence syntheses. So I just want to touch base on this one too. It's really great. Some of our librarians here who are co-authoring have already been using it. It's really easy to search. And CABI is a well-known publisher. And it's open access as well. There is no fees for Search Archive. It's completely openly available. The only thing is your searches are put under a Creative Commons license, a CC0 or CC BY, so like with attribution, or just anyone can reuse it. So that's a really great place for that type of data. And then UK Knowledge. So this, you all might be familiar with this one. This is a place for your scholarship, your data, and your creative works here at UK. So maybe you want to use the institutional repository because you need a data use agreement so people can access your data in very specific ways. The team of UK Knowledge can work with you on that. We can actually make your data not openly available where they have to download it, where they have to actually like send a request to the authors in order to access it. So this is a good kind of middle ground as well. And maybe you just want to support UK Knowledge, and that's where you want to put your data. There are some size constraints. I don't know those off the top of my head, but you can reach out to me or reach out to the team at UK Knowledge, and they can answer those questions. It's not going to fit like ginormous data sets. That's not what it's designed for, but for smaller ones, it definitely works. And we've worked with people. I know I've worked with people in the College of Medicine who have put their data in UK Knowledge. Okay, and then reproducibility and transparency. So the whole point, I've touched base on this throughout the presentation. The whole goal of the NIH DMSP is to make research more transparent and reproducible. So you really need to think about the longevity of your research data. How can others reuse it? What other insights can be made from it? How can I make my data set more understood by others? So really thinking through like that code book or something like that, how you're going to manage that long term so your data can be used by other people and put into a repository. It also helps validate results, right? So if data is openly available, people can rerun your calculations and make sure the research is sound, right? So that just improves the scientific process. And also one goal is to make federally funded research openly available. So I just wanted to end with that, and I can take any questions you all have now.
Feel free to put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Thank you, Lauren, for your presentation. We really appreciate it.